Yo, it's me again. So, in the first video, I was talking about where I've been and all that kind of stuff. And I just wanted to. One of the things I was talking about was how I went from one company to another selling my shares. And that was Verus to Skyline. So, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened. So, obviously, started that business, Verus, with a partner. And it grew and it went quite well. So what was Verus like? Verus was great, but it felt like a job. And what I mean by that is that when I had partners and I wasn't in charge, I felt very accountable to my business partners, and I would have situations quite frequently that were like my business partner calling me up, "Hey, what's going on? Where are you? What are you doing?" Having to answer someone. I was not good in that situation. I'm not very good at being told what to do, and I'm not that he was telling me what to do, but I'm just definitely not very good at answering to anyone. So I found that quite tricky, and that would happen a lot. You know, we would talk multiple times a day, and I personally found that quite difficult. So why did I leave? So at one point, there was a point in that business where I bought a new truck. So I'd been driving around in a van. I was paying myself like not a lot, you know. I think I was on about 28 to 30 grand a year. So modest, you know, but good, like modest but solid income. Some people are like, "What? How much? I can't live on that." And some people are like, "Wow, I wish I could be on that." But for me, I found that like at the time, 30 grand a year was like was fine. I could pay my bills and I could pay my rent, and I could go out for dinner once in a while. So I remember I was driving around in a van, and the company had started to do all right. And I remember bringing in a few jobs, a few big contracts that were worth multiple six figures, right? You know, one job was worth like over 100 grand, and then we got on that job and it quickly doubled. And I was doing pretty much everything to do with that job. So I was earning the company huge amounts of money, and in the company bank account there was a lot of surplus cash, which was great. Like everyone's excited, everyone's great, and but it was a three-way split between me, my business partner, and his fiance. And I remember feeling like, I feel like I'm doing my fair share, but definitely not getting like, you know, I was putting the majority of the work in, but I was not getting the majority of the benefits. We were all getting the equal benefit. And I remember, you know, one of the first things that I wanted to achieve personally was to buy myself a nice car, and I really wanted a nice truck, like a really cool pickup truck, right? I've never had one, always wanted one. And the time came where the company was doing really well, and I remember saying to my business partner, if I get this job across the line, can I get a new truck? And he was like, yeah. Having to ask that was already a problem, but like but then you know, later on I remember him telling me that it caused a bit of an argument between him and his fiancée, because she thought it was a bit excessive, you know, me buying a 28 grand truck after I just bought in about £250,000 worth of work, you know. And I remember thinking and feeling around that time that I was that sucked, and then also I felt vulnerable, because if these guys changed their opinion on me, essentially they could gang up on me and get me out of the company. So I was kind of like, Then something happened where I felt like we had staff, and the staff were very much, they would moan about certain things and come to me, you know, for certain reasons. Anyway, I don't want to talk badly about anyone, certainly not my old business partners. He just had a certain way of doing things, and it wasn't necessarily my way of doing things. It's not to say that mine's better and his is not. You know, arguably, there are pros and cons to both. But this is just what happened. You know, I remember sitting down with my old business partner and having a conversation That, like, you know, did we feel like we were serving each other anymore? And I remember specifically asking him the question, do you feel like you could run this business without me? To which he replied, yes. And, you know, and there was no ego from either of us, I don't think. But I remember saying to him, you know, well, if that's the case, then why don't we go our separate ways? You know, I can go set up my own thing and you can keep Verus. And I think he was quite excited by that idea. And we were very friendly at the time. When his missus got involved, that mutual respect kind of like went out the window. You know, I remember her saying to me, we brought her in on the meetings, and I remember her saying to me that she felt like Jordan did everything and that I did very little. And that, you know, obviously got my back up. And I remember thinking that was kind of out of touch. And but she's going to take his side, right? You know, she was going to back him up to the nth degree, whether I think that's delusional or not. Anyway, that's what happened. I remember thinking at the time, if it was just me and him, we'd probably still be going now, but it got really difficult to be a part of a throuple. So anyway, so that's why I left. I left because I didn't feel like I had any freedoms, and I didn't feel like I could get what I wanted out of the business, which was like to enjoy the fact that we were bringing in a lot of money. It got a bit nasty at the end, you know, when it actually came to me selling the shares and all sorts of dicking around. And as soon as she got involved, it was like it was no longer amenable. One of the main issues was that when I left, a bunch of the staff and a bunch of the customers came with me. So there was this unique situation where one of the main customers had worked with my business partner in the past, but their relationship had deteriorated. I had then built a positive relationship with these people because I'd been seeing them every day. And when I announced that I was going to start my own business, they told me categorically that they wanted to only deal with me, that they would not deal with anyone else. It was one of those situations where I wasn't going to leave that on the table. It was, it was a win for me. I had to ask myself this question, like, am I being ruthless here? But at the end of the day, it wasn't my choice, it was the customer's choice. The customer always chooses where they're going to spend their money, and they were going to come with me. Even if I'd argued with them, which I didn't, you know, I happily took their business. Where the staff wanted to go was up to them as well. And unfortunately for my business partner, because I was at the coalface and I was dealing with people, they wanted to come with me. And I really work hard to build like good relationships with people, and I think that, you know, sort of showed. So that's what ended up happening. When you zoom out, what ended up looking like is me leaving the company but taking a bunch of customers and a bunch of staff with me. And I think that sort of like hurt my old business partners' egos. And I understand, if I was in their position, I would feel the same. What I learned about myself, and I think this is an important question to ask yourself when you deal with anything, is like, does this tell me anything about myself? Did I learn anything about myself? What I learned about myself in this situation was like, when my back's up against the wall and my sort of like personal values are threatened, that I'll kind of do anything. I'm not ruthless, but when I feel like my personal values are kind of like at stake, I will get ruthless. I'll get pretty determined. And I was never like, I don't think I was ever like shitty, but I think some people saw that situation unfold and, you know, saw me seemingly just take customers, take the staff and fuck off. It wasn't really the reality. I haven't spoken to my old business partners since that happened, and you know, they did buy me out. They bought my shares, and then I bought my truck back off them and all that sort of stuff. So there was like a business deal which was all handled by the accountants and all that sort of stuff, and everything was fair exchange. And I asked for a goodwill amount because the business shares weren't worth much. So I asked for a goodwill amount. It wasn't a lot. You know, we're not talking like We're not talking millions here. We're talking like thousands. So anyway, it sort of ended badly in the end. It was going all right, and then it sort of ended badly. And I haven't spoken to those guys since. And I think that's quite sad. But at the same time, I understand that some distance, you know, that chapter is over, and that people want to let that go. I think that from what I know, that it was quite tricky for my old business partner to not replace me, but to step into the fold and pick up where I left off. However, I do know that he's doing quite well now. I know I'm still friends with some of the staff that used to work for him, used to work for us, whatever. I try to keep good relationships, and despite despite people's opinions of me, I actually don't have many enemies. You know, I try to stay on good terms with nearly everyone, and I don't think my ex-partner has many nice things to say about me, and that's okay. I don't have anything negative to say about him. I think he's a great guy. I understand that I understand why he was upset. There's nothing I can do about it, right? I do feel like sometimes, especially with guys, they can get bad advice from their significant others. You know, I'll be honest, if my girlfriend tried to tell me what I should think and feel and speak for me in business meetings, I'll be honest, I wouldn't let that happen. I wouldn't let anyone speak for me, let alone my missus. So, you know, I'm not sure that was the best for him, but, you know, he's a great guy. He's a really hard worker. And since I exited the company, he definitely backfilled, the loss that like he had when I left. And from what I understand, they're doing very, very well. And they're a great company. I actually have had people come to me, ask for work, and I couldn't do it or whatever, and I've sent them to my old company. Now, I know that that's not the same the other way around. I heard that he was talking shit about me and my company to customers, but you know what? There's nothing I can do about that either. I'm not going to do that. They're a great company. They do really good work, and I would suggest them to anyone. And that's it. Just check my notes. Yeah, that's all I sort of wanted to touch on. I think I'll briefly explain this as well. What was it like when I first started Skyline and went on my own? It was definitely a different experience. I ended up hiring a business coach at that time to sort of mentor me through that stuff, and I'll go more into that in another video, but it was definitely different. And without the guardrails of having business partners to answer to, I sort of went the other way. You know, spent too much money, did too many reckless things. So I went from one extreme, a very strict environment, to the other, which was like an open environment, and I fucking, I went crazy, and it was fun. But, now I'm sort of like reining it in, because as with all things, two extremes, the best place is always, the Goldilocks bit is always somewhere in the middle, just right. So that's what I learned. That was my experience. Is there any advice I can give anyone from this experience? Business partners. When you're working with business partners, understand that the situation you start in may not be the situation you end up in. Typically when money starts coming in, that's when things change. Now, I would still go into business with Jordan and work with him and all that sort of stuff, my ex-business partner. But would I go into business with someone and their other half? Absolutely not. I would not. I'm not sure I would go into business with a woman either, because women just process things differently. They get emotional. Women are emotional creatures, men not so much. I found that quite difficult to deal with. So, no, I wouldn't go into business with three people again, certainly not a couple. If you're going to go into business with someone, I suggest you really sit down and have those open conversations. I did have that with my old business partner. We could talk openly, but I didn't have that with his other half. So and here's the other thing I'll say. If your strengths are their weaknesses and vice versa, that's a great situation. I have a new business partner in my property business called Harry, shout out Harry. And Harry is great because his strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa. He's very analytical, very detail orientated, a little bit risk averse, and very organised and structured, very intelligent guy. And I'm not. I'm a bit more reckless, a bit more risky, a bit more, and we complement each other in that way. I bring out the sort of more risk-taking version of him, and he brings out the more careful side of me. That's what I'll say on that. Anyway, if you've got any experience with that, then let me know. Drop a comment below. If you like this video or found it in any way useful, then please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know if there's anything else you want to hear me talk about, and I'll see you in the next one.